Good morning and welcome to our webinar series called Charting Your Digital Future. Today we will be starting off the series of 3 webinars with an introduction to our new product, the Digital Launchpad. My name is Harry Blanche and I'm the CEO of the Document Warehouse Digital. Our context for explaining the product is one of digital transformation, and in that our focus area of information management. So let's start by looking at a bit of a scenario and why we started with the idea of the Digital Launchpad. So typically with a client, we start a project of these information management systems with a lighthouse type project, sometimes called an MVP or a POC, but a bit more advanced version of that. Now, the problem is typically described by a client. They give us what they need to be solved. We workshop the solution with them. We scope, build, test, and implement the solution. We do training on the solution. Solution goes live, and we do support post-implementation. Now, the challenge often is that the rest of the business is left in the dark. They don't know that there's a project ongoing, that finance, for instance, is busy with a transformation project and managing information and workflowing information in a much more efficient way than they might be doing. So we said to ourselves, how do we change this? How can we make this a more compelling argument for the whole company? So questioning how can we accelerate the adoption of a solution like this so that these other departments can benefit from this? How can we increase the value for you as a client? How can we centralize this information for better control, which is a derived benefit of using a system like this? Our solution to this is our product, the Digital Launchpad. Now, the Launchpad is powered by mFiles. mFiles is a Finnish-based company in information management. They've been around for over 20 years, and we've been a proud partner of them for over 15. So our idea is that we would provide a client with 6 generic workflows, which are touching many parts of business, one being document approvals, a help desk solution, a leave approval type process, a payment requisition type approval process, an expense claim process, and a contract management process. And in future, we look at how do we add more value or more functionality to this system. Now, if we look at these workflows, these typically apply across departments. So we end up with a central system which many people can use a lot of the functionality of. So if we look at document approvals, it typically can be used by any department needing to approve a document. Look at a help desk, could relate to any form of IT or facilities or the likes type of help desk requirements. Leave is something everyone takes. Payment requisitions may be applicable to all or some departments. Expense claims, again, all or some departments. And contract management, the same. It's not that everyone would have contracts, but it might be a centralized function, or it might be in finance and operations and sales, depending on what the requirements are, the use cases within a company. Now, some of the general features that we have as a basis for the Launchpad stems from which mFiles offers is really advanced security and automatic permissions, role-based access control, assignment or task type processing, document version control. It's a metadata-driven solution we can access the solution from either web, mobile, or Windows. It could be cloud, on-premise, or a hybrid solution. So why the Digital Launchpad for you as a client? We see it firstly as time to value. So how do I invest in a product and get something out of it as quick as possible without going through months of consulting to get started? We create pre-built structures for document types, and of course these processes that I've mentioned, these 6 that we provide as a basis for the solution. It's a simple user interface in terms of how we interact with the system. The Digital Launchpad is free for anyone who has an mFiles license purchased through us. And the system remains customizable. We know it's not a one-size-fits-all, but we see this as a stepping stone system to help assist with the further enhancement of process and adoption of these types of systems within an organization. It's not a silver bullet. It's merely a solution that helps a company get started and get started quickly within this type of environment. So let's look practically at the solution and see how it functions. So I'm going to go through a process of creating a document through a template, sending it off for type of approval. And in this, we will see different users utilizing the system and how it functions practically. So I'm going to open up mFiles. So very briefly, this is the Windows desktop client I've logged into. I'm identified by either an Active Directory or Entra ID type authentication. And within that authentication role, I would have certain parts of the system I could see. So for me, being a C-type person within the company, I can see all information within the company. But depending on what your functional role is, you will see parts of the system depending on that role of responsibility. So to get started, I'm going to, from template, I'm going to open up mFiles. mFiles is accessible through various mediums, one being a Windows installed client, which I'm using for the demo. The second being a web client, and the third being a mobile client. For this purpose, I'm going to create a new memo document from a template. So for now, I will start within my templates in the system, and this is typically documents we create documents from, and this is applicable to your own business. So think of what could be used for a template to create new documents from. For this, I'll use a memo template. And I'll simply start by double-clicking the new template document. Set some properties or metadata fields to it. And we're going to create a memo for late work. So people who arrive late for work, just say. I'm going to set a workflow to be one of document approval. I'm going to say that this needs to be reviewed. I'm going to ask Anne to do this and ask Brian to approve it. Going to open up the document. As you can see, launches Word from my mFiles interface. So no need to have the application open before I start. And I will draft the document as I would a normal document, which I save potentially on my desktop or my documents. So I've drafted this document, closed it, saved it, and I could continue drafting as I continue updating some of the wordings of the document. But for now, I'm done. And what you'll see, there's something assigned to me, which is this document. It's mine. And I'm going to send this off for review or approval. So I'm going to say, and what will happen is this task now disappears from my inbox or to-do area. Going to log in now as Anne, who's going to be the person that is sent this document. Now, what you'll see is a slight difference in the way the system looks compared to what I had initially in my interface. So firstly, you can see Anne's initials up top right, less work areas, so she can only work in contracts, finance, operations, see templates and workflows. If we just flip back to my area, as I'm one level higher than she is, I can see HR, the management area, statutory information, sales, etc. So depending on my role, I would have certain access rights to the system and to certain areas of work within that system. Let's flip back to Anne, and we'll see she has an assignment to complete. So the assignment is for her to please review, and here also there's a comment for me stating for her to check the wording. She's going to check out this document, meaning she intends to potentially change this. Opens this up, again, launches up Word automatically. And I will just check and see if there's anything I want to change. And I'll just update some small minor details, close it, save it. And as we go along, this automatically versions the document. So we're now at a point where we've actually versioned it and have some change history associated to this as we go along. Now, the obvious thing we've avoided here is using our email as a workflow engine and use a system which properly manages and supports the notion of proper version and history on this information we are trying to get approved. So for this, I'm going to send this off to approval. So I want the next person, being Brian, to then approve this document. So let's log in as Brian. And what we'll see is, if we just refresh, we'll see an assignment that Brian has for approval. So Brian can see that it's been last modified by Anne. You could even just go to the history of this document and see, for instance, who has changed what on the document in terms of how the document's flown from person to person. Brian's going to log in. Check. Going to potentially just remove that second page, just ensure everything's okay, and save it and approve it. Now, of course, you could go back to a rejected state or a rework state, depending on what the process requires. But this, in essence, has been approved. And what will happen now is, in this process, we'll be converting this document to PDF as part of that workflow completion process. So I'm going to just go back to my M files, and I'll view my recent items. If you'll see within a few seconds, we'll see that change. PDF. So we now have a PDF document which has been completed by the system, and we have if we want, we could add a simple signature to that. And then either notify staff via the system that there's a new memo that's been approved, or you could have an area of work where they could always go and see any memos that are available to them, or you can go traditional and send a copy of this via email should you wish. So the idea of this is that we are trying to keep everything within a single system, which is simply used as a means to ensure that there's continuity and effective way of working within an area of work like these documents we've been working with. And in saying this simplifies the way we often find ourselves doing these type of approvals. And this is a simple way to introduce people to a system like the Digital Launchpad. Of course, there are many other ways processes can be implemented, and many other processes that can be implemented on top of the solution. So despite the 6 generic workflows that are provided, this does not stop a client from deploying additional functionalities and features on the Launchpad with our assistance. We are more than willing and welcome to assist with these type of requirements, whether it be integrations, expansions of these existing processes or new processes. For now, we would appreciate you send any questions or ideas to info@tdwdigital.com, and please look out for the next event in the webinar series. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.